Hello again. For years now, black people in the United States and also increasingly in Britain have been told how badly they've been treated and how sorry we as white people are for what has befallen them and their ancestors. The results of this policy have been almost entirely negative. Despite our best efforts, the demands made by black people for special consideration grow ever more strident and, some would say, outrageous. If one constantly tells a community that they have received a raw deal and been deprived of their rights, then it's hard to see how this can fail to inculcate in them a sense of grievance, and this hardly makes them want to fit into and become part of a society which has ill-used them so badly. It would not be in the least surprising if they acquired a pervasive feeling that they were the victims of sharp practice and entitled to some recompense for the shabby way in which they had been treated. In California, this process is now about to begin in earnest. It is likely to take the form of both monetary compensation and also special consideration when applying for university places. After being systematically overlooked and sidelined for hundreds of years, surely it would only be right if they were now allowed to take their rightful place alongside all those of European and Asian heritage who have done so well out of a corrupt and racist society. It is this feeling among black people which lays behind growing demands for compensation from present-day Western governments for the historic evils of slavery and colonialism. In Britain, such a bill is about to be presented to the government by the former colony of Jamaica, and it will be for billions of pounds. In other words, the Jamaicans living there now in the country of Jamaica are saying that they were taken there against their will from Africa and that we in Britain should pay for this. There are growing demands in the United States for reparations to be paid to African Americans for the injustice which their distant ancestors suffered when taken forcibly from Africa and transported across the Atlantic Ocean. California is now looking into the most just and equitable way of going about this process. It will be a disaster and create new and damaging divisions between ethnic groups. Readers are invited to conduct a little thought experiment. Imagine, if you will, that a decision is made to pay compensation to those African Americans whose forebears were brought to the country centuries earlier. What kind of amount might we be thinking for each person? One suggestion has been that every black American might be owed about $267,000. Two impoverished families live side by side, one black and the other white. The black family, consisting of a man, a woman and their two children, are suddenly given $1,068,000. Overnight they become millionaires. Their neighbours, who are every bit as short of money as the black family were until they received their reparations, get nothing. They have what is popularly termed white privilege, and thus belong to the class of oppressors and slave owners. One wonders what effect this hypothetical situation would have upon this white family and others like them. Would they see it as an act of justice that every black person in the country were to be given over $250,000? One rather suspects not. Far more likely is that such largesse on the part of the government would cause fury and resentment, both against the government and also those families who had overnight been transformed into millionaires. It would at the very least hardly be likely to improve race relations in the United States. This is especially so since many Mexicans and other Latins think that they too have been hard done by, and yet there's no suggestion that they will be turned into millionaires overnight. It must also be borne in mind that many white families have ancestors who were exploited for centuries in mines and mills, building sites and factories, all for the benefit of a handful of landlords and wealthy employers. A lot of impoverished white people have been systematically robbed of the fruits of their labour to no less extent than the average black person. This is regrettably the nature of society. Black people are not uniquely entitled to be compensated for the inequalities which are an integral part of the capitalist systems in countries such as Britain and the United States. Trying to assuage our misplaced guilt by handing out millions of dollars will not lessen the tensions between ethnic groups. This is really a form of blackmail being exerted against us. It happened during the Black Lives Matter disorders, and the result was that a lot of corporations, big companies, handed over millions of dollars to the Black Lives Matter people, and it was immediately appropriated and spent on mansions for a few of the leaders. Where America leads, we in Britain follow, and there are already those who think that a scheme of this kind could work nicely in this country. In the description to this video, I'll give a link to a bit about the Californian proposals. By the by, somebody seems to be commenting here as history debunked using my picture and offering a VIP course to enlightenment. I need hardly say that this is not me, and that anybody who takes up such offers does so entirely at their own risk.